Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for the JOJOLands Chapter 9 review titled The Owner of the Lava Rock. So we're finally back after last month's hiatus and I'm hyped to jump back into more JoJo as Araki returns with another excellent chapter that finally brings us face to face with the true enemy that's been hunting us for nearly the entire part so far, that only continues to build upon the greater mystery behind the lava rock and what sort of evil may lie within the islands of Hawaii. So it's definitely been a minute since the last chapter, so just a quick recap of the story so far, as this is honestly still kind of one continuous arc. So Jodio and the gang have secured their diamond and now the mysterious lava rock from Rohan, battled against some stand-like cats in the forest while learning about the rock's power to attract valuables, and now they're killing some time before their flight back to Oahu and experimenting more with the rock, which ends up getting Dragona and Usagi in some trouble at the luxury watch store, while outside Jodio and Paco are threatened by this enemy who's also been after the lava rock since like chapter 2. So getting right into things, starting with the cover page, just a simple portrait of Dragona and a promotion for Volume 2, which will be released next month, along with a new issue of JoJo magazine, featuring a vibrant JoJoLands themed cover. So December is looking pretty stacked with content, new chapter, volume, and JoJo magazine, so a lot to look forward to. But now into the actual chapter, we pick up through the perspective of Barbara Ann, who's calling Jodio to just check in and ask what he wants for dinner. Meanwhile, Jodio is being attacked by an enemy stand user. So you have that whole trope played out with the parent calling at the worst possible time and telling their kid not to do what they're already doing. As Barbara Ann says she doesn't want Jodio hanging out with that Paco Laparantis kid, saying he's trouble and that she's gonna make chicken burritos for dinner, and then we're just right back into the action. So at first this phone call seemed out of place or like what was the point, but then I remember that Jodio is very much a 15-year-old kid, so of course his mom would be expecting him home by dinner. And this consideration of Barbara Ann makes me wonder how involved she will actually be in the story. If it will be more of a JoJolian vibe where we often return back home in between arcs and the parents are important characters, or more of a Josuke and Tomoko situation where we see her every so often but not really important. So following the phone call, we pick up right where we left off with Jodio and Paco wondering who and where the enemy is. And Paco mentions this is like something the Mafia would do, and Jodio replies, "The Mafia?" And they seem to be caught up in this idea, as Paco says they should just hand over the lava rock, it's too much for them to handle and they've already got the diamond, which is what they came here for. Although everything Paco says here in this first scene will be recontextualized at the end of the chapter, so keep that in mind. Meanwhile, Jodio thinks more rationally, saying if these guys really are Mafia, they wouldn't leave any witnesses and would probably take the diamond anyway, so they need to stand their ground. And this idea of the enemy being Mafia creates some interesting avenues for the plot. My first thought is that Araki could just be baiting the reader with more Part 5 elements, teasing the idea of the Mafia being involved, more like a callback, but turns out to be something more complex than just a crime organization. As you have to wonder what would lead the American Mafia to Rohan in the first place and even know about this supernatural lava rock out in the mountains. Or of course, maybe it does turn out to be the Mafia and we jump headfirst into an alternate Golden Wind, fighting against them, or maybe Jodio has to join their ranks with some ulterior motive. Because as we've seen, he's no stranger to working with gangs and criminals. Also in this scene is some amazing characterization for Jodio, as Paco is almost trying to persuade him into giving up, saying things like maybe the lava rock belonged to this person to begin with, and let's just hand it over and be done with it all. But Jodio isn't easily impressionable. He doesn't crack under pressure or take the easy path. He acts with an unclouded judgment and sense of truth. He thinks back to Rohan's villa and the map he found on his iPad, how it was a mountainous terrain with an X marked on it, along with photos of volcanoes, lava flows, and cooled rocks. Apply a little critical thinking and it's clear that Rohan is the one who found the lava rock, who then, slightly against his will, entrusted it to Jodio. So he is the rightful owner and shouldn't give it up to anyone. And we get this great line from Jodio, who tells Paco, there come times when if you don't make a clear choice one way or the other, you can't move forward, expressing the importance of living according to your own truth and having the courage to believe in yourself, as it can be so easy to be paralyzed by fear or uncertainty, a feeling also known as analysis paralysis. And this sentiment is especially important for creative fields, as someone like Araki working on deadlines can't afford to stand still. I'm sure he's constantly faced with difficult decisions for his stories that sometimes may not always be the best move, but at the the end of the day, it's better to have moved forward than to have not moved at all. At least that's what I got out of Jodio's words, maybe some Iraqi wisdom there, and it's following this message that the chapter switches scenes back inside the watch store, which is where a bulk of the chapter is spent, as we see Usagi and Dragona are being searched and continue arguing with the employees. The shop claiming they stole the watch, Dragona claiming they didn't and are being mistreated, when really, no one knows what actually happened. So to settle it all, they pull up the security footage and say they'll be free to go after they look through it all. And I like how Dragona and Usagi are like, I think we're innocent, but I really want to see what happened too. So as expected, the missing watch was drawn to the lava rock, slipping its way into Dragona's wristband and then into the pocket behind his chest piece. Although he notices that smooth operators are holding onto the watch beyond his control, and Dragona thinks back to Rohan's villa and wonders if the diamond moving was also due to his stand, suggesting that the lava rock has the ability to control stands. So instead of it having a gravitational pull like we previously thought, it will instead influence the things around it to bring in valuables, even stands if that's an option. Although it couldn't have just been smooth operators this whole time, as someone would have noticed them by now, and we've seen more complex ways the rock works, like last chapter with Paco's refund influencing behavior instead of physically moving something. So when Dragona realizes he actually does have the watch, the guards begin a body search, but again, without Dragona's control, the watch moves to the shoelaces of the store owner, and then in a very Autumn Leaves fashion begins comically spinning across the floor. And the store owner apologizes for ever accusing them of stealing, and that this all must have been because of a slippery band. So this moment definitely gives you that what the hell just happened feeling, but thankfully it leads into a very important narration from Dragona about how the lava rock really works, saying it may take some time and might not even be on this island, but that watch will come back to me. Continuing saying that he is beginning to understand the lava rock, and that it affected him, the shopkeeper, and the guards all unconsciously. But through people's emotions and connections, these things that are worth money are sure to eventually come back. Which is the most important takeaway here, as this kind of confirms a theory from the previous reviews, that the lava rock will subconsciously influence people's actions. And we have examples of this going all the way back to chapter 5, when Jodio first got a hold of the lava rock, as we see that when they are leaving the estate, Usagi just so happened to feel compelled to steal an original drawing of Pink Dark Boy, which Jodio is shocked and excited by because he's a big fan of Rohan's. And this relates to Dragona's idea of emotions and connections, because the drawing was something Jodio personally liked and had a connection to, so maybe the rock brought it to him using Usagi. So the more we learn about this power, it seems way more similar to Milagro Man and even Wonder of You, as it uses people and the flow to make things happen specific to the desires of who currently controls it. Looking at Dragona in this chapter, they question why just one of the watches was drawn to the rock. Could it have been that it was the one Dragona wanted the most because it was the most expensive watch? But when his emotions change, realizing he's about to be caught and doesn't want the watch anymore, it moves according to his desires, as the watch was no longer a valuable in that situation. So it performs this charade of slipping all around the floor, as I'm sure this is all a roundabout way to eventually find its way back to Dragona safe and sound, avoiding a negative outcome. So clearly the lava rock is connected to the flow in some manner, as it's able to recognize what would be a positive and a negative, going out of its way to save Dragona and influencing the employees to profusely apologize and let them off the hook without any further suspicion. So just when we thought we had this thing figured out, it throws a wicked curveball and expands the realm of its power so much further, to the point where I'm thinking, well, what can't this thing do? It makes you money and it saves your ass apparently too, as I'm sure at some point in the part, as long as we hold on to the rock, the watch will return. So through a miracle of events, Usagi and Dragona are freed from the watch store, and we switch back to Jodio for the final pages of the chapter, where we see Paco return with their food. But Paco's been here the whole time. That's because there's two Pacos, revealing that the Paco we've been talking to this entire chapter is a fake, as his face cracks and crumbles away like a mask made of stone, revealing the face of the enemy, who promptly attacks Jodio with a sword he was also hiding through the same ability. So besides the fact that Jodio clearly just got his throat cut, this is awesome, man. No more running away from cats or automatic type stands. We're finally face to face with an enemy and with a sword in the mix. So this was completely unexpected, unexpected considering the pacing of the parts so far and the way fights typically play out, but unexpected in the best way, like definitely early JoJo vibes here. So remember how earlier I said everything with Paco would be recontextualized? Well, that's because since last chapter when he went off to get food, we've been with the fake Paco, which explains why he was trying to convince Jodio to give up on the lava rock, and the whole cats in the bag trick from the end of the last chapter. So it appears that there are multiple abilities going on here. Right now, I think that the cats were their own thing, just a group of animal stand users, but under the command of this guy, who clearly has their own stand that uses some sort of rock-like material to change their appearance and conceal weapons. Who knows, maybe even the sword is part of the stand. And to fuel the golden wind mafia theories even further, the asymmetrical hilt of the sword this character uses appears most similar to an Italian short sword. Maybe something there, maybe not. But I of course have to mention this ability's shocking resemblance to the Rock Humans and Dr. Wu from JOJOLian, the stand that could break its user down into rock fragments. So while they do look similar, no, this is not Wu Tomaki, even if he does never fail, as this ability, at least to me, looks more like wax, which plays into the theme of changing your appearance molding with hot wax, and what we see crumble away is dried wax. And when they pull the sword out, you can see more clearly something kind of gooey going on. Although I don't want to completely rule out the possibility of rock human activity, as there is an angle to consider here. So Rohan found the lava rock in nature. It's clearly some sort of blessing from the earth, Holy Corpse, Rokakaka adjacent, and this chapter refers to the enemy multiple times as the lava rock's owner. And as we learned in JOJOLian, rock humans are drawn to these blessings from the earth and apparently make special places as their true homes. So this enemy very well could be the true owner or a guardian of these lava rocks, which would explain why he was stalking Rohan. Maybe they're just trying to return it to its rightful place, as it may provide some purpose out there in the mountains. So will Araki bring back the rock humans? It's possible, but highly unlikely that they will again be the primary villain group. I think that's just too similar to JOJOLian in that part's themes, and I don't even think I would like that. I'd want the JOJOLands to bring more unique ideas to the table and have its own identity. So just for these final pages alone, Goat Raw Fire chapter this month, art is outstanding as always, and the twists and turns of the writing is gripping every step of the way. Although I do think the pacing could be improved a bit, as lately chapters have been feeling kind of padded in order to end on cliffhangers, as that's 2 cliffhangers in a row, essentially still waiting for the same thing. So hopefully the focus is this new enemy for the entire next chapter, now that we're out of the watch store and they've made their attack, and we really get to open up the world of the JOJOLands a bit more. But of course the biggest blunder here is there's no November rain in chapter 9 in November. What do you think, Araki? So that's all my thoughts on the new chapter, but before we close out, there is some JoJo news I wanted to cover. So at the start I mentioned the new JoJo magazine that is releasing next month, and you can find the full details of what's included on the JoJo Portal website. So just a few highlights are the Hawaii interview record that apparently will discuss how to create villains, and a talk with Araki and his first editor Ryosuke about architecture. And on the gaming side of things, everyone's favorite Toru and Wonder Review have been confirmed as the final character in All-Star Battle R's Season Pass 2. I think most people saw this coming, just thank God it wasn't Josh who ported over from Eyes of Heaven. So Toru is here, and according to the eShop, he is planned to release on December 8th, so I'd expect an official trailer relatively soon. So the playable character here isn't actually Toru, it's Wonder Review, and Toru will only appear in cutscenes, which is a bit strange, as he'll be the only stand user in the game who is fully replaced by their stand. I guess maybe not enough source material from Toru for a moveset, but Wonder Review is still great, so I'm fine with it. Really curious to see how they do the voice acting. Is it going to be an old voice, a young voice, maybe 2 voice actors? I guess we'll see. And that's going to do it for this month's JoJoLands review. Thank you all so much for watching. Please drop a like on the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more JoJo and the JoJoLands content very soon, and I'll talk to you guys all in the next video. Till then, I'm out. Peace.